Steve Mellish has put a few more pennies in the meter. We've got him for a little bit longer and we can pick his brains about what he thought about the final day of the Royal meeting. It promised plenty and it certainly delivered. I thought Giavolotto, a winner of the Hardwicke and a stacked Hardwicke as well. Orthodox got the day off to a good start, blistering pace. Norfolk, another win at the Royal meeting with a two-year for Clive Cox and Ross O'Ryan, 9-2. Almeric taking the Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee at 25-1 in a great finish. The Secret Adversary building on what he had always promised, 20-1 under the Group 3 penalty in the Jersey at 4:20. Double Rush marking himself down as a sprinter to really start getting excited about in the Wokingham at 5 o'clock off 105. He won at 5-1. Lost Boys won at 2-1 favourite. A fourth win for Wasnan of the week, a third for James McDonald and David Munwise really clicking into form now. He took our 5:35 in Illinois, a doubtful stayer, but he got it done. 7-4 favourite, taking the Queen Alexandra over the marathon trip at 6:10. We're going to focus on a few of the group races, starting with Giavolotto's win in the Hardwicke. There was so much quality to this race. What did you make of it as a whole?
You probably want to watch it about 3 or 4 more times. There was so much happening. Things hadn't panned out well for Ossian Murphy this week. Today they did. He gave a beautiful waiting ride on Giavolotto, tracked Kalpana through, produced him in the final furlong, got everything spot on. Coming together with Goliath caused the irons to be lost by Christoph Sumon in the final furlong. Accidental. And probably going to be third anyway, I think, watching it a few times. I just a personal opinion, Kalpana, who got me. I think if Colin Keane had his time over again, I think he'd wait. I think he'd gone nearly a furlong too early. She's cruising to the straight on the bridle. 2 out is a long way out at Ascot, and I thought she made herself a bit of a sitting target. She's run really well, and maybe Giavolotto would have won anyway, but I do think he gave Ossian a target. Yeah,
he's certainly no mug in his own right. A proper Group 1 horse.
Superb,
He's going to take them to plenty more big days.
And he's been all over the world. He's been, Hong Kong. He's been an absolute star horse for them. Used to think he was a stayer. But now he's proved himself there won't be a better Group 2 in Europe this year. He proved him basically Group 1 in terms of quality. So he's gone and done it. Tremendous performance by the horse. He's a real star at the age of 7. He retains all his own ability. And it was nice to see Goliath come back to some proper form. But he's been a really good advertisement for geldings. And I think Kalpana's proved she's every bit as good as she was last year. And they won't have much trouble finding more top races for her. So it's a really good race, really, really deep race. The likes of Jan Bruegel were well beaten off today. So it's a strong race, and it wasn't without its talking points after, but you couldn't begrudge the winner winning again.
Certainly not. If you were a fan of Giavolotto, you could very well argue that 9-1 was perhaps overs for a horse who was a Group 1 winner in his own right. If you were a fan of Almeric, you would still likely have had to really plead your case that you fancied he was going to really take a step up for a first foray into Group 1 company. Quick ground for him to deal with, but he passed the test.
Well, it's only 2 runs since he had that horrific fall in a listed race at York last year when he was favourite, would very likely have won. But not only did he have a fall that he's yet to recover from, and he was off the track for a long time, didn't come back till last month at Salisbury. And obviously we had the really sad injury for Jim Crowley that day, who's still out. So he was making up for lost time. He's a very lightly raced 4-year-old, but you can't argue that he's taken a significant step forward, because you look at the placed horses in Jolly Star and Satono Rev. If they'd fought out the finish for first and second, you'd have been completely understanding on it. First and second favourite, top-class international sprinters. On the day, on merit, Almeric's beaten them.
There will be some people who will be looking back with a ruing sense looking at that race. If you've backed Lake Forest, he's once again finished like a train. What do you think would be his ideal set of scenario, his ideal track, his distance?
I think the ideal distance is probably 7. I think he'd have got away with it today, but it was an awkward ride, and that is no criticism, because from stall 1, they had to do things early on to try and get cover, and it wasn't straightforward. I think if they'd also been drawn 10, it would have been given a much more straightforward ride, and I think he would have gone quite close. He hasn't got beaten far in the end. I think he's probably the horse who's slightly unfortunate in the race.
I could certainly see Almeric in a July Cup, no question about it. I could see Double Rush, the winner of the Wokingham.
Yeah.
There was talk afterwards of, well, the question was posed by Rishi Prasad on ITV's coverage of perhaps the secret adversary chucking his hat in the ring. He won the Jersey and showed bags of pace in there.
Well, I thought he'd travelled like a horse who'd be every bit as good at 6 furlongs. There were 7 furlongs today. Unlike in the Guineas, particularly our Guineas, and maybe to a lesser extent in the Irish Guineas, he didn't pull today because they go stronger pace. But he showed the same excellent cruising speed. He came right away with a runner-up, Take Charles Star. I mean, there's some underperformers probably in the race, but they pulled a long way clear. It's strong form, and I must say, I'd be very tempted to try a Group 1 race at 6 furlongs. What have you got to lose? He's won a Group 3. They can go back to 7 furlongs later in the year, but while he's in the form he's in, I'd be very tempted to have a go at the July Cup. There's no outstanding sprinter around. There's lots of good ones, but I think we've seen in all recent races, they're quite closely knit, aren't they? And why not? It's a different sort of angle to come across.
Is there, this might sound like a stupid question, but as it currently stands, do you think there is one outstanding 3-year-old miler in the division, or are you expecting that Stade will continue to give Bo Echo races while they're still meeting over the same distance? I
think what happens in the future, who knows? I think Bo Echo is significantly better than Gustard compared to what they showed during the week. The race couldn't have worked out worse for Bo Echo, could not have worked out better. It's for Gustard. It's almost like they had people on their side making sure he got a clean run up the inside. Who knows? That's what it looked. So he got an absolute solo and a totally clean run. Bo Echo has, for various, both at the start and later on in the race, hasn't had the things ideal circumstances. He's hit the front too early because there's nothing taking him there, and he's just held on. But it may be Gustard continues to improve and gets past him, but if that was the end of their careers, I think the Guineas is a truer reflection than the St James's Palace into the difference between the two. That was all the way back on day 1 of Royal Ascot. Day 2, for some people, would have been the most mouth-watering clash of the week on paper. You had Ombudsman looking to defend his crown in the Prince of Wales against the reigning Arc winner Darris, who had shown certainly his tactical nous and speed in 2 runs this season. You had Al McCann looking to back up the Tats Gold Cup. Very rarely do races like this actually deliver. Absolutely. And I think this one really, really did. I think I totally agree, and it's I think he's been given a rating, or will be given a rating in the 130s, which is the sign of a high-class horse. It's definitely rare these days. Very rare. Very rare. That's a mark of a really good Group 1 winner. Not that many horses do it. I think it's undeniable he did it on Wednesday. I think the set of circumstances were ideal. I think if you had to say, if he could speak, he would say, what I want is a really, truly run race on quick ground. Yeah. That's what he said. Stiff track maybe as well, but mainly those 2 things. And he's got that at York last year when he won. He got it here in the Prince of Wales last year, and he got it today. He didn't look as good in the Eclipse when he didn't get it. He didn't look quite as good in the Champion Stakes where he didn't quite get it. Both performances were good performances, but these circumstances are very, very hard horse to beat. So far in his career, for those reasons, you don't use vulnerable lightly, because he isn't vulnerable. He is a top-class 10 furlong horse on his day, and he has proven that now on more than countless occasions. Yeah. But it does still feel like a different set of circumstances could at least see other horses catch up to him. Let me pose you this. Over 10 furlongs on a rematch of the Champion Stakes, for example, if Calandagam was to face off and they were both arriving, who would you fancy? Well, Calandagam's got to prove after the disappointment at Epsom that he's as good as he was. Absolutely legitimate excuses with the ground, but nonetheless, he's got to prove it. The Calandagan of last year, I think on the day he beat them, was his superior. I don't think there was much doubt on the day that he was the best horse. I'll be straight further. I think the horse who was fourth this week, I'm a bit of a fan of his, but I think if just once Al McCran got good to soft ground, genuine good to soft ground, I think he'd go a heck of a lot closer to Ombudsman than he's... I mean, he's beat him once, hasn't he? Getting weight last year at Sandown on good ground. Every time he's come across Group 1 company, he hasn't had his conditions.
It just felt like a rising crescendo as the week was going on, because after the St James's Palace on day 1, the Prince of Wales on day 2, suddenly it was time for the Gold Cup.
And what a race.
It's going to be quite hard to better that in years to come. You had last year's winner, Trawlerman, really try and take the sting out of Scandinavia. And if you were watching Scandinavia for the first time, you'd think 3 miles, 4 miles. It took him an age to overcome him, but that's probably testament to Trawlerman as much as the talent of Scandinavia.
Look, absolutely. I'm old enough to remember Cigaro, Lemos, Ardros, Yates in recent years. I'm not saying Scandinavia has proved he's better than them, but I can't remember a more enjoyable Gold Cup race. 2 very good horses, a reigning champion, a proper stayer, ridden to test the stamina of the other horses. There was a brief moment turning home, you weren't quite sure the 3-year-old was going to do it, and then he's really buckled down and won, and he's capable of dominating this division for a few years, unless something comes along from the 3-year-olds this year.
I'm hoping they meet again.
Me too.
Do we think the next time that they'll probably meet, given how he was campaigned last year, Trawlerman, that it was... We only really saw him in the Champions Day, on Champions Day in the Long Distance Cup. I'd be very interested to see exactly how they would fare with the ground not maybe as quick. Yeah. Maybe with Trawlerman in that set of circumstances. Again, I'm a massive fan of Scandinavia. Yeah. But I'm not 100% sure that then that 99 times out of 100 that it's going to be Scandinavia and Trawlerman losing out. No, I mean, if you're a Trawlerman fan, you'd say he was his first run of the season. He's had his issues. I think Scandinavia has the potential to get better. He's a 3-year-old. He's got a wonderful attitude to go with his ability. Things didn't... Although they weren't absolutely ideal for Ryan Moore this time. He was a length or 2 further behind turning for home than maybe he would have chosen to be, and he still got the job done. My gut feeling is I think Scandinavia will slightly increase his advantage. I just want to close on a couple of questions. Mainly, who was the beaten horse out of the week that you're looking forward to seeing again? Not necessarily unlucky, but maybe has teed up a really nice second half of the campaign. Well, I'll repeat myself in that once this year, just once, in a good race, I hope Al McCran gets genuine good to soft ground. I mean, he's already won a big race in Ireland this year anyway, but I'd love to see him against whoever you want to put up. I don't care. I don't think... Well, in terms of I don't think he's far behind them if he got his condition. So, not unlucky, but I'd love to see that happen once. What about you? I'd like to see Friendly Soul. That was unfortunate. Look, it's going to be discussed to death, but ultimately that's what happened. The inside was chosen. She finished like a train. I think they've got a very nice horse still. And I think her programme kind of writes itself, doesn't it? Yeah. From what it was a couple of seasons ago. I mean, probably the distance this week was probably on the short side for her as well. So she's definitely going to, she remains a very, decent class filly, and John Gosden will definitely win a good race for her this year. I'm also looking forward to seeing what Libertango develops into for the rest of this season, and if there will be a next season for her, and what exactly that might look like. It's probably the most exciting 2-year-old we saw this week, I think. So, absolutely, I couldn't argue that. There's plenty more that we haven't got time to mention. Exactly. Steve, thank you very much. Really enjoyed watching the racing with you, discussing it all the way through the afternoon. And the week that was at Royal Ascot, it was a hell of a week. It's going to be hard to top it next year, surely.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.